Yvette Rosary was working remotely for Johns Hopkins, surrounded by some of the most renowned medical professionals in the world. But while her professional environment was elite, her physical reality was quietly unraveling. She began experiencing the terrifying onset of transient ischemic attacks, many strokes. Words started slipping from her grasp. Typing became a struggle, and she suffered sudden physical falls. At the time, Yvette was navigating the deep grief of losing her mother. Because she was remote, the physical falls were completely invisible to her colleagues. When they saw her struggling to communicate, they viewed it strictly through the lens of a grieving daughter, entirely missing the neurological red flags of an escalating medical emergency. Pushing forward to maintain a standard of past performance while dealing with severe, unseen physical trauma creates an incredibly dangerous situation. The true crisis continues to compound, hidden from everyone who might be able to help. Yvette calls this immense strain the tenacity tax. It is the massive amount of mental and emotional energy required simply to exist while keeping a struggle entirely hidden from the outside world. People pay this tax because of the intense societal and professional pressure to seem completely fine. There is a deep-seated fear of inconveniencing colleagues and loved ones, or being perceived as a burden, of being labeled as more work. Eventually, an individual simply cannot afford to pay this tax anymore. The body and mind reach a breaking point where they can no longer sustain the facade, and the internal systems shut down entirely. The relentless effort required to mask a crisis often causes more damage to a person's mental health than the underlying trauma itself. Yvette reached her own limit. She took a leave of absence from Johns Hopkins and returned home to New York to attempt a reset. The clinical reality was far more severe than anyone had realized. Yvette had survived multiple strokes that affected all hemispheres of her brain. In the aftermath, she found herself managing the physical recovery alongside severe, newly developed anxieties and bipolar disorder. Simple tasks, like navigating public spaces alone, suddenly required immense bravery. Her initial instinct was to fight against this current and force her life back into the lane she used to occupy. But she soon realized that genuine recovery requires a different approach entirely. Moving forward after severe trauma requires intentional bravery. It means letting go of the person you were and the path you had planned in order to fully honor the person you are right now. To manage her intense new anxieties and stop her mind from spiraling, Yvette needed to build a gentle, controlled place for her brain to land. She designed a series of puzzles and exercises, which eventually became her book, Grace and Grit. She relied on structured scenarios, like 9-letter Wordoku master words. These provide a sense of absolute control and order. By relying on this rigid structure, a recovering mind can practice focus safely. It isolates those mental pathways from daily chaos. Mastering these small, logical certainties provided a sense of predictability that the outside world lacked. With that stable mental floor beneath her, Yvette found the strength to stop trying to force the pieces of her life together. She eventually found peace in leaning not on her own understanding, accepting that she could move forward even when the destination was invisible. These structured exercises provide the architectural blueprints for rebuilding a quiet, resilient mind. Yvette redefined boundaries as active mechanisms for protecting inner peace, moving beyond the simple act of saying no to others. A core tenet of this recovery is acknowledging a hard truth about human energy. Resting is a mandatory function of survival. It is not a prize to be earned through hard work. Prioritizing yourself is a logistical necessity. It is physically impossible to support others when your own system is entirely depleted. Fiercely protecting these boundaries is the only proven method to stop masking and permanently stop paying the tenacity tax. This philosophy is the foundation of Spanky's Place, a conceptual sanctuary Yvette created specifically for those exhausted by their own hidden struggles. The rules of this space are simple. Performance is unnecessary, masking is drug at the door, and the individual is never treated as more work. If you are navigating your own hidden storms, know that your quiet, unseen efforts are valid. You do not have to have it all figured out, and you certainly do not have to carry the weight of understanding it all alone. Paying a high tax for your resilience is a profound testament to your strength. Protecting your peace amidst that cost is your most important victory.